Now, I get it, emotions run high in the game of fantasy football. It's that competitiveness. It turns us into raging madmen or madwomen, but for the most part, it's mad men because dudes all over the world end up having epic emotional breakdowns every week of the NFL season. But we play this game because we love it, and I would rather be a lover than an emotional head case. That's why in today's show, I'm choosing love and talking about 5 running backs that I love way too early in 2025. Now, there is going to be plenty of things that change here over the next few months, but we're going to follow these players in this video today pretty closely, because if their situation stays the same or improves, they're going to be on a lot of my fantasy football teams in 2025. The first guy being Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm going to crown Chase Brown as my best call of 2024. I had him in off-season videos. I talked about him in the draft guide. Then he went out and proceeded to be stolen in fantasy football drafts by members of Headliner Nation everywhere. The dude's ADP was right around the 9th or 10th round in some drafts. He then proceeds to go out and have 1,350 total yards with 54 receptions and 11 touchdowns, finished as the RB12 overall on the season, all while not even getting the starting role until week 4, and he missed a game last year. But he isn't a secret anymore, so why do I still love him so much? Thank you so much for asking, by the way. Well, the Bengals just brought back T. Higgins on the franchise tag. That's a ton of money tied up between Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, like $90 million this year. They also need help on defense. Their best defender, first-team All-Pro Trey Hendrickson, is either asking to be traded or extended, and he just led the NFL in sacks. Their secondary, it needs more depth. Defense has to be the focus for Cincinnati this offseason. There is no one on the roster that's really going to challenge Chase Brown. I think we saw now that Zach Moss really isn't a threat. And most importantly, Brown proved in 2024 that he can be a workhorse. 7 of his last 8 games resulted in over 20 touches a game. And this year, you could still probably get him as a 3rd round pick in 2025. I absolutely love it. But I also love James Cook, running back for the Buffalo Bills, and what's not to love about a running back who plays on one of the best teams in football and averages like 1,400 total yards and 10 touchdowns a season. And now I can hear some of you saying out there, what the heck, Jake? James Cook, this one's kind of a no-brainer, right? This one's a layup. I agree, but he's currently ranked as the current consensus RB13 overall. That is 1 spot lower than Chase Brown. Which means, just like Chase Brown, James Cook is projected to be a 3rd round pick in fantasy football. Now, obviously, he isn't going to go out and score 18 touchdowns a season, but Cook has finished inside the top 12 running backs now in back-to-back years. He was top 15 among all NFL running backs in red zone touches, yards per reception, yards per touch, and breakaway runs. But most importantly, he plays on a team that is going to be playing with a lead a lot. That really helps provide him positive game scripts most weeks of the season. Now, he may not be a huge volume guy like Saquon, Henry, or Bijan. He may not be a consistent lightning rod like Gibbs or Devon Achane, but he is somewhere in between those guys. He's a super solid running back that you don't have to worry about most weeks. I still love James Cook in 2025. Which will take us to the next guy I love, Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers, the current consensus RB16 overall. He's coming off a career year. He just got extended during the season last season. There's no competition on the depth chart, and the Carolina offense started to click towards the end of the year. I could just stop right there and not go any further. What's not to love right now about Chuba Hubbard? He finished top 15 among all NFL running backs in snap share, carries, targets, red zone touches, rushing yards, receptions, fantasy points per game, evaded tackles, breakaway runs, and yards created, and he did it all while barely playing the first 2 weeks of the season and then missed the last 2 weeks of the season. We already know that Jonathan Brooks is going to to be ruled out for the entire 2025 season. Carolina still has needs all over the football field, so they're not going to be heavily reliant on finding another running back this offseason. Now, the offensive line that he runs behind in Carolina, one of the most improved in 2024. They just struggled with some injuries. Now, Carolina could easily add another weapon on the outside for Bryce Young, but that's only going to pull defenders outside of the box and help Chuba Hubbard. Sometimes we just have to look at the situation and ignore the fact that the player name may not be the sexiest. Chuba is in line to be a running back I love in 2025. Which brings me to Alvin Kamara, the current consensus RB18 overall. So many people hate Alvin Kamara right now in fantasy football, and I totally get it that he isn't what he used to be. But how much is on him and how much is on the Saints' overall offense the past couple of years? Because Alvin Kamara just had 1,500 total yards, 68 receptions, and 8 touchdowns, finished as the RB10 overall in fantasy football, and missed 3 games of the season. Why are so many people hating on Alvin Kamara? The Saints at times last year didn't have Derek Carr or Chris Olave. The offensive play calling was boring and vanilla with Dennis Allen and Darren Rizzi. How about Alvin Kamara scoring 10 plus fantasy points in 13 of the 15 games he played? And now, finally, once again, he gets an offensive-minded head coach in Kellen Moore. 4 of the 6 years that Kellen Moore has been an offensive coordinator in the NFL, he has led a top 12 rushing offense in the NFL. He's already come out and praised Alvin Kamara. We know the Saints are not loaded with weapons, and there is no team right now in the NFL that has less salary cap space than the New Orleans Saints. And you'll get Kamara at a discount in 2025. What's not to love? But I wanted to go a little bit deeper down the list. How about Tyrone Tracy of the New York Giants, the current consensus RB22? And I kind of feel like the consensus is straight faded here. They're basically saying that even though Tracy barely played the first 4 weeks of 2024 and had to endure the quarterback play of Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, and Tim Boyle, he's basically not going to do anything more than what he did last year. Now, last year, he had 1,100 total yards and 6 touchdowns, finished as the RB26 overall. And I don't know, maybe it is just me, but don't we think that the New York offense has nowhere to go but up? Because we know a new quarterback is coming. Could they draft Shedeur Sanders? How about the potential of Matthew Stafford or Russell Wilson? It doesn't really matter. Any of those guys will be better than what New York had last year. It's going to help them score more points in 2025. Now, this may sound absolutely crazy, but we could actually see the Giants play with some leads this year, and that would definitely benefit the running game. Now, the Giants, they also just hired Tracy's college coach, Liddell Betts, to be their running back coach. Now, in no way do I want Tracy to be my RB1 or my RB2. A little bit more of an RB3/bench stash, but I love it early on here in 2025. Now, if the Giants go out and draft a running back early in the NFL draft, just forget I said any of this. All right, so there you have 5 running backs that we need to pay attention to closely here throughout the offseason. Now, don't forget the NFL Combine is here and the draft is right around the corner. Pay attention throughout the offseason. The last thing you want to do is not pay attention and then get caught with your pants around your ankles during your fantasy football draft. Now, if you want to make sure you just dominate all things fantasy, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got you covered with everything that you need for fantasy football here in 2025. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get out for the day. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day, though, and then most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.